Good evening, Broncos country. We are live. But before we get started with tonight's discussion, conversation, want to take a minute for the chat to just breathe, make sure we have all of our platforms included tonight. All right, I see green check marks across the board. Welcome in, everyone, to another installment of the Orange and Blue View podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ron White. On that side of me, you know him, you love him as my co-host, Mr. Dylan Von Arks. Dylan, how are you doing today on this very nice Saturday?
Doing fantastic. I'm a little tired. Did a little partying last night. Halloween, getting dressed up and having some adult beverages, some snacks and whatnot. I went as Mr. Fantastic, the more of the newer version. Pedro Pascal. Not quite as sexy
Mhm.
as him, but tried my best for sure. But it's good to be back on the pod talking with you, my man.
Yeah, and we were talking at the beginning. I'm not too big on Halloween, but it was nice to go out on the streets and see the costumes and did get a little candy as well, so that's good. I'm a big
Boy,
candy guy, but yeah, good to be back with all of you tonight. And there's a lot of things going on, Dylan, and Broncos country. The Broncos are doing well, 6-2 record. So you love to see that. But I know this week is where the injury bug has kind of started to catch up, unfortunately, for your Denver Broncos. And we'll get into that here shortly. But before we do that, kind of want to say hey to a few people here that have joined us tonight. We got Mr. David McElrath, the Papa Bear, coming in. Thank you, David, with a generous super chat. We appreciate it. Says, good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag 13 and 4 or better. I like that, David. I like that, David, a lot. And again, the way they're playing now, that's definitely within the realm of the possible. Let's hope they can continue to stack those wins. But thank you for coming in, David. We always appreciate you, my guy.
yeah, always good to see you there, David. And it's awesome just how good the Broncos have been playing on offense as of late. Cowboys game, it was a full game. Giants game, we had to wait till the end for it to kind of show up, and hopefully we can see some carryover. I'm not going to see 44 points necessarily against this Texans defense, but hey, let's get to 20. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice little number there, bro.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we got Mr. Ernie Mays coming in. Thank you, Ernie. Says, go Broncos country only. That's the only country that matters. Yes, Ernie. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming in. And we got a guy here from New Mexico, Dennis, saying, hello, go Broncos. Thank you, Dennis, for joining us. We greatly appreciate it, my guy. And the member here, MELUX Test Prep, here at a party. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you gifted us here with the My membership. Yes, thank you for becoming a member, Test Prep. We greatly, greatly appreciate that as always. And Mr. David Yunkin coming in. Palcho may not play. Yes, David. So I'm glad you brought this up. Let's get to a few different injuries here. And as some of you may know, we already know that Patrick Surtain is going to be out at least several weeks. Now, dealing with that pec, Dylan, there were various reports when it was released. I know, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, they reported upwards of 4 to 6 weeks. But in PS2's podcast with Terry Arnold, closed on Sundays, he said he'll be back in no time. And some of the Denver media also mentions that, it's going to be maybe 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe after the bye. So it's not as bad as it once was thought it was going to be. So that's good. Now, I know it weighed heavily on the Broncos' minds to potentially put him on IR, but given that the bye is coming up, they probably just didn't think that was a good idea and he'd be ready to go versus the Commanders. Now, me personally, I would want him back for the Chiefs. if possible. I think the Broncos can be just fine without him, definitely for tomorrow and Thursday night against the Raiders. But the Chiefs game is definitely what I'm looking forward to, and also um, Nate Atkins um, will also be out for this game. He's dealing with that knee. Also, PJ Locke out, dealing with that neck. And I think this one is going to sting a bit more, Dylan, than the PS2 injury is Marvin Mims. Still dealing with that concussion. Now, there was some miscommunication towards the end of the game when he was out there returning that punt when he honestly shouldn't have been. But he will also be out, and hopefully he'll clear concussion protocol and be ready for the game on Thursday. But yeah, man, I think, and the Poucher one here, David. I think it just popped up, but he's dealing with an illness. Um, hopefully he could be able to play. May not. I think they'll monitor it, and I haven't heard any news since because I think it just popped up, Dylan. But it may be one of those things where maybe it's like a game time decision. We'll see if he goes or not come tomorrow.
Yeah, the bugs going around is that kind of time of year, unfortunately. So he's gonna have to start crushing some vitamin C and some Dayquil. Hopefully he'll be okay for the game tomorrow, and I think he will be. But something to monitor nonetheless. And the biggest uh, loss, obviously, for this game, Patrick Surtain. I do have confidence in the secondary, but to lose the best player on your defense is always going to be a tough test. But especially with Nico Collins and Christian Kirk being ready to go for this game, big upgrades for the wide receiver position for the Texans. But I think they can hold their own for the most part. And I'm right there with you. Going against Kansas City without Patrick Surtain would be just awful, especially how now they're getting back to full strength with Rashee Rice there, and you got Hollywood Brown, Worthy, Travis Kelsey, and they've kind of been able to use Barron in a role where he gets to delete the tight ends on the opposing side just because of, hey, you got PS2 on one side, you got Riley Moss on the other, and you can kind of use him to cover those tight ends. I mean, Jake Ferguson, in terms of receptions and yards, best in the league up until last week, where he got 0 in each respective category. So, it changes what their defense could do, and this is going to be a real stamp for Vance Joseph's resume. Say, okay, we've seen what you can do with top tier talent on your defense. What happens when PS2 is gone? What kind of game can you scheme up? How can you build your head coaching resume when you're down the best corner in football? And yeah, just some of the other injuries there. I mean, Nate Adkins sucks. Obviously, they've elevated Mercedes Lewis, 41-year-old Mercedes Lewis, to play in this game. That's pretty cool. We'll see. We'll see how he plays in the real game. Obviously, he had to work out, and they cleared him and whatnot. We'll see how that works out. And then they also elevated Michael Bandy, so he'll look to take some returner snaps in the absence of Marvin Mims, along with R.J. Harvey.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you brought up a good point with the PS2 injury and how this will look for that secondary. I mean, again, I think this is a perfect time for the secondary to show up. And I loved, I just like what they're doing with Jahdae Barron. Having Jahdae Barron on the tight ends, just neutralizing how he neutralized Jake Ferguson last week. It was so nice to see. But now with PS2 out, how is this defense going to look? You know, with nickel and maybe some of the sub packages. And I think sub packages, Dylan, it may help because now with Dre Greenlaw coming back, he's also good with neutralizing tight ends as well. So, if they want to have Barron more in the boundary, I know Sean Payton mentioned that obviously he's not going to show his cards, on what Barron does, if it's still going to be outside versus inside. But Chris Abrams' drain, obviously we saw with Moss. It's just going to be interesting to see how VJ attacks it with PS2 out. And I think Phil McLaughlin brings up a good point, which was going to be the next point I make here. Good evening. Thank you, Phil, for coming in. He says, Ron and Dylan, I got a feeling Bonito is hungry. Stroud on his back a few times this game. Hashtag Buckham, hashtag Broncos for life, hashtag MHH for life. Yes, yes, Phil. And this also goes to the point of this pass rush, Dylan. They have to get him a few times. And we know how the offensive line is for the Texans. They've been dreadful. Now, they did play a little better this past game, against the 49ers, but they have that rookie out there, I think Ursery, and then a few others that it's just really been underwhelming. Had Stroud running for his life on his back to start the season. So it's going to be an interesting matchup with Ursery, that rookie tackle, against Nick Bonito. And then Ingram, I think he's the right guard, with Zach Allen, just to see exactly, if they can hold their blocks, or if not, I mean, just expect for this D line, John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen, and obviously the edges of Cooper Bonito to have a day. But yeah, Phil, this is also a great point of Bonito, Cooper leading the force with Zach Allen to attack those tackles, and Zach Allen to definitely, dominate with John Franklin Myers, the interior.
Yes, and Benito is going to be very hungry. He hasn't had a sack, I believe, in the past couple games, and teams have really keyed in on him. And, they leave Cooper open, which is a bad idea. He's also very good on the other side. He doesn't get as much recognition as he should, but he's a very integral part of this defensive line. But as you mentioned, this is going to be a tough matchup for the tackles of the Texans. I mean, Titus Howard and Ariante Ursary, I'm not sure they're going to be able to hold up, and even in the interior of the Houston line. And that's where the Broncos are going to have to win and help out their secondary, because those, as we know, secondary play and defensive line, the pass rush, they go hand in hand. So if the Broncos can get a good pass rush and get Stroud off his spot, make a few errant throws here and there, that's going to help out Riley Moss, who I think has been unfairly reffed at times, especially that CD in the end zone. I think they threw the flag just because it was CD, and they're like, oh, well, he must have been held, or he must have been interfered with because he didn't catch up. But there's definitely some bias there, I think, with the refs in terms of Riley Moss. But we'll have to see how Abrams Drain plays as well, because I noticed watching back the games, he gives such a big cushion to receivers, and
He
I'm
does.
not a fan of that, man. I mean, they can just trickle down the field, and that the Texans are anticipating the pass rush to get home often. So they're going to want to get those quick passes out there. So if you're leaving a big cushion there, you're not giving yourself a good chance to make plays on the ball. But just back to Phil's point, thanks for coming in, Phil. And yeah, I think Benito is hungry, and I think there's going to be a fire lit under his ass to get a sack this game.
Yeah, a few sacks. I expect a few sacks from Bonito, just because, like I said, he's been starving the past few games. I know he had that one against Dallas, okay, but I think he's wanting more. So I do think this is a game, Phil, where he kind of gets back on track, and kind of gets back into the league leader in sacks. I know right now I think it's Brian Burns that leads the league with 10. So yeah, I know he wants to do that. But again, Phil, thank you for coming in so much. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Let's see who else we have here. Just saying a few more hellos. What's up, Ron, Dylan, and Broncos country? Mike S., it's good to see you, my guy. Thank you for coming in. All right, let's see who else. And we have Last Chance WOR coming in with a super chat. New name for me, but thank you for coming in. He says, what wide receiver trade would you guys be most excited for? Well, I'm glad you asked this question, Last Chance, because Dylan and I were actually talking about this in the room before it started. And just in case you guys didn't know or weren't doing, any reading in the reports out there, a lot of the NFL media outlets, from Diana Rossini, I think Mike Cliff, Jeremy Fowler, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter. There have been talks leading up now with the trade deadline on November 4th that the Broncos are in the market to trade for a wide receiver or a tight end. Um, and I think this has been kind of percolating for a while. Dylan, I think George Payton's making calls. I mean, I think he's always on the phone, seeing what's out there, seeing what deals can be made. Um, and I do think if they do make a trade, I think more than likely it's going to be for a tight end than a wide receiver. Even with the signing and the promotion of Mercedes Lewis, the Broncos are still kind of pining out there to see what tight end might be available. Um, I think the two names at tight end that may scream here at you would be a Chigo Okonkwo from Tennessee or a David Njoku from Cleveland. I know Mark Andrews is out there, but I think the Ravens are starting to turn a corner a bit down, so they probably want to keep him. But to answer your question here, last chance, the wide receiver that I'm more interested in trading for would be Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is such a fascinating wide receiver. Just everything that he does, like catching the ball in space, the route running, the speed, the change of direction. Um, I just think what he can do with the ball in his hands is would be such a nice add to this offense. Now, you like what you see, or at least I like what I see from the development, the growth of Troy Franklin. Um, I still want to be a little bit more consistent, Dylan. Um, but it's been a big jump from year one to year two. But if the Broncos are trying to go all in and trying to have as many weapons as they can for Bo, I just think the most intriguing guy here would be Jalen Waddle. That would excite me the most. But I do think if it's a wide receiver, Dylan, I mean, we're looking at some of those um, other names, maybe like a Shaheed. I know he's been floated around as well. One of the lower tier guys. I just don't think the Broncos are going to be kind of doing one of those, looking at the flashy names. At least that's just my opinion. What is your take here?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there in terms of are they going to get that big flashy name? I kind of lean towards no, but if just for the sake of this exercise, talking about the wide receiver that we'd be most excited for, I'm right there with you. Jalen Waddle brings an explosiveness and a speed to this offense that obviously you see with Marvin Mims at times, but he's not a good route runner. He's mostly been a gadget guy and a return man, which is something you don't really want to see out of a second round pick that you traded up for. But and now with him being out, that really sucks. But the big word with this wide receiver room that we've heard forever. Oh, but the potential for Troy Franklin to be this good, or the potential for Deshaun Hamilton, for KJ Hamler, for Jordan Taylor, all these guys, right? We
Ooh,
fall in love with them because they are Broncos, right? But at the end of the day, I want substance. Give me the steak. I don't care about the sizzle anymore.
the known.
Potential. Exactly. You're trading for a known commodity. And I know people are going to say, yes, Jalen Waddle has been injured a handful of times in his career. That's you can't dispute that. But what he brings to this offense as a 26-year-old, he's not some 30-year-old wide receiver just looking to win a ring at the end of his career. He's still very young. He brings a speed and explosiveness and is very effective in the screen games that Sean Payton loves to employ in his offense and can actually make some guys miss. And, while you mentioned Troy Franklin, he has been better. You've been seeing flashes. You've been seeing improvements. And, again, the Cowboys game is a big stamp on that resume, right? But he plays very well against zone coverage. He's very good at finding those soft spots in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to man coverage, one of the worst in the league. And that's kind of what scares me going forward because, and especially in this matchup where you got Derek Stingley, who I hate to say it, he's going to lock up Cortland Sutton pretty good. I'm not expecting
Mm-hmm.
a big game from Cortland Sutton. So that means, hey, one of these young guys got to step up, and it's not going to be Mims because he's out for this game. Luckily, the Texans have run a fair amount more zone than man this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether they switch that up because D'Amico Ryans, he's a smart defensive coach, so he might want to play a little more man just to lock up Troy Franklin there. But if Troy can show out again this week, I'm not I don't expect 2 touchdowns, 100+ yards, but if he can make some key catches and clutch moments, then okay, yeah, maybe we're not talking about trading for a wide receiver. But until we have more proven commodities, I'm absolutely for trading for a wide receiver.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's such an intriguing, idea. Um, and it's good that the Broncos are even in this position, Dylan. Again, sitting at 6-2 and trying to add to the weaponry for both. I think it's good. Now, do I think that a trade will happen? I'm leaning more toward no. And again, if something does happen, it's going to be one of these names we, you know, never really probably thought of. And there's still some good options out there. Obviously, like Bellinger from the Giants, who we just played against. He's actually very good. I think I heard his name floated out a few times. Um, but yeah, I just don't see a trade happen. But yeah, you got me excited here. By chance, if it's one, it's Waddle excites me the most. But very very good question. I like the question there. Thank you. All right, let's see who else we have here in the chat. We got William Catalano coming in. Thank you, William. It's good to see you. He says screens might actually be ideal in this game considering Texans secondary are good. I heard their linebackers are very fast though, so maybe not. Yeah, William, the Texas defense as a whole, it's outstanding. I mean, number one in the league, or at least top three in several categories. Um, what they do, that their front is just amazing. Obviously, the edge is led by Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. They've been a sight to see. Alshire and Stingley, Lassiter. They're all quick and just fast. They click and close like no other. So it's gonna be a tough test for this Broncos offense. Now, there could be times, to your first portion here, where the screens may work, and I do expect a couple of them to kind of calm down that pass rush of the Texans. But I think, Dylan, the screen game combined with a methodical rushing attack, and you can maybe get things in the middle of the field. And I think this might be a game. You mentioned Cortland Sutton being locked up by Stingley, but maybe a good Evan Ingram game. And also Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant. I do think this is where um, the Pat Bryant can somewhat emerge. Now we saw him last week catch that touchdown against the Cowboys. You love to see it. But I do think this is a game where those two, helping out Evan Ingram, once Bo gets to play action after running the football, will work. But yeah, this Texans defense as a whole, William, they are not a joke. So I think Sean Payton has to come up with a game plan specifically to contain those two guys on the edge.
Yes, and you have to slow down those guys because they are game wreckers for sure. And while I like, Bowles has been great this year, McGlinchey has as well, but these are top tier level pass rushers. They may not be leading the league in sacks, but they do know how to get pressure on the quarterback. They don't even have to get sacks. They just have to push Bo off a spot, who has been very shoddy when it comes to throwing off platform and not setting his feet to throw to begin with. And yeah, I think they should employ some screens. I would love to see them, and I would prefer to see them put an emphasis on that run game, man. I mean, everyone's going to look at Bo Nix's performance, and as they should, he played very well. But what allowed him to do what he did in that game is getting that run game going. Take some pressure off and opens up your offense more. And that's something that has been very lacking the past year and a half now. So if they can stick to the run game, get RJ Harvey more touches, keep J.K. Dobbins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Broncos, in terms of yards per game, and I think actually just in general, they are the third ranked rushing offense in the league, averaging 137 and a half yards a game. And that's going to take pressure off of Knicks. That's going to open up the defense. That's going to soften up this Texans team and make their linebackers chase to fill those gaps on the inside. So I know Sean likes to use screen games as an extension of the run game, but sometimes you just got to pound the rock. Let's not get too cute with it. And I know I think I see David says we already have our screen guy in RJ Harvey in terms of I believe that was in response to Waddle. I think it's a little different there. I do like Harvey. I would prefer to have a wide receiver on these screens and whatnot, but that's just me maybe. And but yeah, we'll have to see. These linebackers are very fast, and it does kind of scare me a little bit. I hope to not see Bo Nix run as much. Just thinking of how Aziz Al Shair took Trevor Lawrence's head off last season, so I'm hoping
Yeah.
it's a little more conservative when running the ball there.
Yeah. And I agree with. I mean, on the Harvey front, yeah, I don't really see Harvey as much of a screen guy. I think that again, you see Troy kind of do a lot of those. It needs to be designed for a receiver. Now, Harvey in the pass game has been good, has been solid.
Yeah,
I mean, coming on with those wheel routes and coming in the backfield, kind of leaking out. Um, so that they are using him to his advantage, what I like. Um, but yeah, you need like a true receiver. And again, Troy Franklin has thrived, and you see people like Jaden Waddle do that. But yeah, thank you, William, for coming in. Greatly appreciate it. Let's see who else we have here in the chat. Let's see. And yep, a few people are here kind of saying, thank you, Pro 16K. I don't think we make any big moves, maybe a couple of small ones. Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I think if it's any move, it might just be one little small room move at the tight end position, possibly. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Pro 16K. All righty. Let's see who else we have here joining us. Let's see here. Ralph coming in from Facebook. Thank you, Ralph. He says last time we were 6-2, we missed the playoffs with 9 wins. Let's keep momentum. Yes, Ralph. Broncos just have to keep their foot on the gas. And it's now again the Texans are no joke. It's going to be a tough game just because of that defense of the Texans, but I still think it's a winnable game. I mean, because the matchup, it favors the Broncos. The Broncos are the better team, and they should play like the better team. And then you also have next week's matchup with the Raiders. So it's a little soft, and it's good that it's a little soft in the schedule now because you do have those injuries, as we alluded to earlier. But then a little later on, this is when it gets a little tough. Obviously, games against the Chiefs, the Packers, actually the few games against the Chiefs and Packers. Jacksonville has fallen off a little bit, but I mean, they're still going to be tough as well. So they just need to keep putting their foot on the gas. But yeah, I definitely agree there, Ralph.
yeah, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the last time the Broncos went on a 5-game winning streak like they did this season, they lost to the Texans when Russell Wilson was still the quarterback. And I believe that was 2 years ago now. And we're hoping to not repeat history. I think we have a better team than we did then. And, just some costly mistakes in terms of quarterbacking that game, but completely different teams, completely different season. The Broncos on offense have sort of found their identity, kind of. We'll see. We'll see if they can stay consistent. Like I mentioned, get that run game going. You got to tire out that Texans defense because they are ferocious and they will take every opportunity to make a play on the ball, sack the quarterback, causing completions. Derek Stingley is a beast. The 2 edge rushers, beastly. I mean, it's not going to be an easy game, and the record I don't think shows how good of a team they can be. That defense is absolutely disgusting, and it kind of reminds me of the Broncos teams of the past decades where the defense was really keeping them in games for so long, and then the offense just couldn't put it through the end zone there. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough battle. Whether I don't care about their record. This is a team that's looking in to come in for an upset and break this 5-game winning streak. And yes, we have to keep that momentum. And Ralph actually comes back in later and says, last time we were 7-2, we won the Super Bowl. So let's put a little more of that good juju out there.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder there, Ralph. Yeah, let's hope they can get to 7-2 tomorrow, and keep it going. Ralph. I'm the one. I'm really wanting them to get that number 1 seed, and it's within the realm of the possible. Obviously, we know the Colts are just out of this world right now, with Daniel Jones and that offense. And the Broncos should have won that game week 2, but that's what it is. But yeah, I do think if they can keep this momentum going, they can definitely vie for that number 1 seed in the AFC. But thank you, Ralph, for coming in. We greatly appreciate it. And to your point on running the ball, I think this guy's going to help tremendously, Dylan. Thank you, Mike S. I think Lewis is a big addition, but I don't know how much he has left at his age. Yeah, I think he's going to be a key addition, especially with the absence of Nate Atkins, because we know Nate Atkins is your best run blocking tight end out there that the Broncos have. So now with him not being in the fold, Lewis kind of steps up, and from what he's been in a few interviews, Dylan. I've listened to him. When he was interviewing with the Broncos when he first signed, and also I think he was on Nightcap recently with Shannon Sharp. And, he said he's ready. I mean, he's big, he's physical, he's ready to get in there and do the dirty work. He's been doing that his whole life, his whole pro career. He can catch a few passes as well once he enters the fold, but him coming in, getting his hands, feet dirty, helping out in the blocking, I think this is gonna help quite a lot, especially this week, and depending on how long Atkins is out, for a few weeks to come. But yeah, even at age 41, I do think he's going to be a tremendous benefit, especially for this run game.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I mean, he's not going to come in here and have 100-yard games. He's just going to get a couple catches here and there, and he's mostly going to be an extension of that offensive line. Now, that's kind of where I leaned when in terms of talking about tight end trades. Like there's certain guys out there. I know the Mark Andrews out there and whatnot, and people want that. I think even Chigo Conco is more of a receiving tight end than he is a blocker. And at that point, you should just be trading for a wide receiver, because you don't want just like a mid-level tight end at receiving. You might as well just go get a receiver. But I do think he has this, Mercedes Lewis, that is, he has this passion still. He still wants to play football. Age be damned. This guy's going to come in here and he's going to block his ass off. And that's what the Broncos need, because that's what they're missing in Nate Atkins, is that toolsy kind of H-back player that is a blocker primarily. He gets his catches here and there, but that's what the Broncos need. They need to strengthen this run game, whether that's putting out an extra lineman and then adding Lewis on there. So I'm excited to see what he can do, even at his advanced age, we'll call it.
Yes. Thank you. Yep, for sure. And then we got Mr. Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Thank you, Phil. On Facebook, he says, I just hope that Troutman actually has his best game ever. He scares me. What are your thoughts on this one, Dylan?
Prepare to be scared. I just, man, I mean, Halloween continues a couple days, through the weekend, I suppose. Troutman, man, it was hard to watch him last year, and then he's somehow being a middling player has fallen off a cliff even more so, which is really tough to see when your tight end room is already not great. Obviously, you're seeing, Evan Ingram, he's getting more involved in the scheme, and there's more of a connection between him and Bo, which is awesome. You got that receiving threat, but everything behind him is not great, and that starts with Troutman. I mean, he's a Sean Payton guy. He brought him over here from New Orleans, and you thought he'd be at least stable, but man, he's had that offensive pass interference negating the Cortland Sutton touchdown last week. Inexcusable. He didn't even attempt to run around. That was just diabolical. And and multiple just like missed blocking assignments on the screens, which is why you haven't seen screens work a lot, largely due to blocking. And Troutman is a very, very big part of that. And there's I'm trying to think of tight end names. The only one that I could think of that I'd like to trade for, like on the lower end, Charlie Kolar from the Ravens. He's more of a blocker, and he would be infinitely better, even as a pass catcher at this point, than Adam Troutman, whether that's hyperbolic or not. But that's kind of just shows you how I feel about Troutman.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just very noticeable in several games, just how these blocking assignments just have been horrible from Troutman. And you would think that would be somewhat of a strength, but he's just missed them completely, Dylan. It does scare you. It does scare me, Phil. Again, hopefully you brought in a Mercedes Lewis that can help. Now I know this will be his first week with the Broncos, but hopefully you can kind of come in and help. You have Pat Bryant helping as well with the blocking. So, hopefully those two can kind of help with some of the deficiencies we've seen from from Troutman in the blocking schemes, because it's just been a mess. I'm gonna be honest with you. But yeah, I remember that play, that little pick he did, and he didn't even. And I was like, that was a nice design, if only. But anyway, but yeah, he's been very, let's just say, not good this year. So that's why it would be, good upon the Broncos to just bring in someone else. Again, someone that's really solid. And you mentioned Kolar from the Ravens, solid in the blocking game. But thank you, Phil, for coming in with that. We greatly appreciate it. All righty. And David coming in here with our tight end room scares me, except, yeah, David. Not, and especially with Atkins out. You could at least rely on Atkins to catch a few passes. He scored that touchdown when they were in London. Coming in, he's your best blocking tight end on the roster. Now, again, Mercedes Lewis, I think he's still good as well. We'll see, how he comes in. But, who's been playing since the beginning of the season? Yeah, I would say Atkins definitely is your best run blocking tight end. But, yeah, I think the whole tight end room scares me as a whole in general. Outside of Ingram, but Ingram's just your slot receiver, the way I see it, and that's why it would be a good idea to bring on another tight end that can definitely help out in the blocking game.
Yeah, Nate Atkins is a pretty low key contributor to this team. People don't realize how much he does for this run game and even in pass protection at times. And he's had a couple clutch touchdown catches the past year as well. So he is going to be missed for this game, and hopefully Mercedes Lewis can help fill that void a little bit. And String Guy comes in and says, was Dylan born yet when he was drafted in the NFL? Was it 06?
I think it was 06.
Okay, I was depending. Yeah, I was 6 years old. So yeah, I was alive, I was around kicking. I wasn't. I mean, yeah, I was pretty young, but I get your point here.
Well, young buck. Oh, that's funny. Thank you, String Guy, for that. All right, Dylan. So I guess let's talk more about the game tomorrow, as far as any keys to victory you may have. We did call out a few matchups near the top, but any other matchups that you're looking for? Just kind of touch on that.
Yeah, it's more of a general for the generalization for the position. Wide receiver, I mentioned already that Cortland Sutton, he's going to have some trouble with Derek Stingley. He is one of the top corners in the league, probably top 3, and he's been shutting guys down all season. And Sutton has been erased from a couple games thus far. I mean, the Colts game was abysmal. I mean, Xavier
Mm-hmm.
Howard, who was out of the league for a year, and he's in his like he's like early or mid 30s. Like that's absolutely unacceptable. And it looks like that's going to happen again with Derek Stingley. Maybe I'm being too negative, but that's just how I kind of view this wide receiver room. Without Cortland Sutton, who do you got? We have potential. Again, we're going back to potential. Now Mims is out. Troy Franklin, you have to take advantage of what's given to you in this game, and you have to create plays because the Texans have moved to a little much more zone this year, and that's where he thrives. Now, obviously, they'll probably try and throw a little more man at him because they know that's what he's good at. But I need to see him be better against man coverage. I need to see him create more separation against man. I need to see him make more tough catches and not drop the ball like he has in the past. I need more consistency. So I'm looking for Troy Franklin. You need to have a big game because I don't know that I trust any of the other receivers to do that. Pat Bryant, I definitely want to get more touches as well. It's just permitting that Sean Payton gives him those touches, and hopefully last week was an indication of an uptick in those reps.
Yeah, and I think you'll see more time. I mean, with Mims out, I mean, Sean Payton's going to have to get Bryant more touches. Um, and I'm right there with you. I'm going to add this because again, the Texans defense, they don't give up a lot of big plays. So it is imperative when the receiver gets wide open, and I'm talking specifically Troy Franklin, when there is a big play that is there, Dylan, Nix and Franklin have to hit it. They have to hit it. Um, and so I do, and again, I hope that you will see a few of those this game. But again, it's just going to come down to Sean Payton sticking to this run. I think you have to be patient with this team. Again, these are some fast linebackers. They're inside linebackers, and their safeties are quite quick, and always around the football. But it just requires some patience with Harvey and Dobbins, um, getting Ingram involved closer to the line of scrimmage and having him make something happen. You just have to find other ways to kind of slow down this front of the Texans because they can be a handful. And I don't really have too many concerns on defense, but I think this is just a shout out, or more of the onus is going to be a little more on the pass rush, and the opportunities there with the offensive line of the Texans. So maybe get a few sacks from Benito, a few sacks from Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, maybe with the sack apiece. I think this is a time where, in the absence of a PS2, you dominate. And again, they've been dominating all year. I mean, they lead the league in sacks, so we know what they are. But I just think, this is the perfect opportunity given what we've seen from the Texans offensive line for this front to just eat and have Stroud on his back several times in the game.
Absolutely, man. They got to get home and push him off his spot. And this is a perfect opportunity for them to do that. They're already 10 sacks ahead of the next closest team in terms of
Yeah.
total team sacks. So let's extend that league out further. Why not? I mean, they are more than capable of getting after the quarterback, and this is a prime matchup to make that happen.
Yes, for sure, Franklin. Let's not drop balls. Yep, we're going to pray on that one, Pearl. We are going to pray on it. All right, guys. Well, we kind of have to cut this one a little short tonight. So, if there are any other burning questions, topics, this is about the 2-minute warning. So make sure you bring them up here, and I'm going to go through and run through the injuries here. And again, we've called them out. Um, But just to reiterate, final injury report that we've seen here: Nate Atkins out with a knee, PJ Locke out, still dealing with that neck, Marvin Mims out with the concussion, and Patrick Surtain out with the pec. And we just found out today that Alex Palczewski is dealing with an illness. So we'll see if he goes tomorrow or not. All right, Dylan. So it is prediction time. Who do you have winning this matchup at NRG Stadium tomorrow?
Well, I have the Broncos keeping that ball rolling, moving to 7-2, beating the Houston Texans 17-10. I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I know a lot of fans are confident that they're going to put up a lot of points. If we're being honest, Dallas is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, defense in the league. And not that Denver's offense is going to come crashing down, but they're definitely going to be scoring a little less because this is a tough defense to throw or run against. They're going to have their struggles, and that's just kind of how it is. They're still trying to find their way, trying to get a consistent run game, trying to find a consistent pass catcher that isn't named Cortland Sutton. But I do have the Broncos winning this game 17-10.
All right. I like it. I like it. And before I get to mine, Phil coming back in with the question. Thank you, Phil. It says, do you guys think Dallas has a better QB and O line over Texans? Yes. Yes.
Easily.
So far, Dallas, and I think it might be the Colts now that have the number one offense. But before last week, Dallas had the number one offense as far as total yards. And Dak was playing at an MVP caliber level. The offensive line was solid. I think they had a few rookies in there, but they were able to hold their own. And obviously, we don't have to talk about the weapons. I mean, we know what CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, even Javonte Williams have done to start the season. But yeah, definitely the quarterback play, Phil, and what the offensive line, how they were able to protect Dak. They've been playing light years better than what the Texans have. And you've seen these games from the Texans, Dylan. I mean, again, like you said, the defense plays at an exceptional level, but the offense can't get anything going just because they just can't protect Stroud. Stroud's running for his life. Stroud's always on his back. There's just consistent pressure, and they just can't get anything going. So you have to be proud of what the Broncos were able to do against the number one offense coming into last week. I mean, they shut that. I mean, they shut it down, Dylan. They shut the passing attack down. Now, obviously, you're going to give up something, and they gave up yards on the ground. Javonte had 2 touchdowns. But even when Surtain exited, Jahdae Barron with a pick, big man Tillman with a pick. They were just able to wreck shop against the Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, I do think Dallas has the better QB and O-line, Phil.
Absolutely. Dak was playing at an MVP level up until he met Denver. And their offensive line has been pretty solid. They've had a couple injuries there, but I mean, I'm a big Stroud fan. They haven't necessarily done enough to protect him, and he's looked worse for it. I don't think their offensive coordinator is that creative or great as well. So, maybe that's another potential thing because obviously he looked great his rookie year and has kind of slowly fallen off a little bit, but I don't think a fault of his own. I think it's more of a organizational thing, trading away your best tackle in Laramie Tunsil to a different young and up-and-coming quarterback.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Phil, for that question. Very, very good question. Seeing some predictions here. Phil with 21-17. We got Pro 16K 30. Ooh, got a 30 burger. I don't know if you want to get there, Pro 16K. Be nice, but again, this Texans defense, they're a tough group. String guy 27-21. Mike with another 30 burger. Okay, I like these predictions. So My prediction, I do think this is going to be a game that is on the lower scoring side, just because we're talking about uh, two solid defenses here with the Texans uh, and with the Broncos. Um, I just think I'm taking the defense is kind of neutralized other, so I'm taking that out. I'm just looking at both of these offenses, and from what you can see so far, I trust our offensive coordinator, who is our head coach, over the offensive coordinator for the Texans. And I just think Sean Payton's going to have a solid game plan to attack every level of this Texans defense. So with that, my final prediction, I have Broncos 20, Texans 13. So I do think the Broncos get in the 20s, but I just don't think it's going to get more than that. Because again, this Texans defense is tough.
There it is,
All
man.
righty, guys. Just kind of doing one more look at the chat. Just make sure I'm not missing anyone. I think we have all the comments here. All right. Well, again, guys, thank you all for tuning in tonight. We greatly appreciate all of the questions, comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share across all the platforms. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you have not done so already, make sure you follow us on X. I am at Ron White NFL, and my partner in crime here is at Dylan Vaughn Arts MHH. Before we sign off, I'll turn over to Dylan to give a few shout outs um, tonight for tonight.
Thank you to everyone who joined the chat. We love the conversation. It's always fun the night before game day. We get to talk it out, talk about trades with the trade deadline coming up, and just how we think the Broncos are going to do tomorrow. But I want to give a special thank you and shout out to those who donated to us tonight. David Papa Bear McGillrath, as always, thank you, David. MBLEX test prep coming in. Phil coming in not once, not twice, but 3 different times. Thank you, Phil. And Last Chance WOR, thank you guys so much. It means the world to us that you guys come in and hash it out with us and create great conversations. We also want to make sure that you guys follow Mile High Huddle on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod as well. Make sure to get yourself some merch at mhhmerch.com and follow us on Instagram at Mile High Huddle with an underscore between Mile and High and Huddle. And of course, follow Orange and Blue View on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer. And grow our show and grow our following. We love having you guys in here every Saturday night.
Yes, we do. Again, guys, thank you all for tuning in. And I know Phil coming in here last minute with a few. Can we get a safety? A safety would be nice. Um, if they can pin him back, I've loved Crawshaw. So yeah, safety would be nice. And one bold prediction. Cool. Good to sign us off here, Dylan. I'm gonna say bold prediction. Pat Bryant has 3 touchdowns tomorrow.
Okay, I like that. Hopefully, yeah, I'd love to see that. I love Pat Bryant. Let's get him more involved. For me, I guess we already know what's going to happen. We know sacks are going to happen. Maybe I have to go big here. Screw it. Let's say 8 sacks. Why not?
Ooh,
That's bold, right?
okay.
We'll take
Okay.
that as a bold prediction.
Okay. That's about because did they have that many against Justin Fields? I'm trying. Well,
It was
it was
it
close
was
to.
it was 7 or 8. I can't remember
Okay.
specifically, but it was up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like it. Alrighty, guys. Well, again, thank you all for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And we will catch you all next week. Enjoy the game tomorrow. And as always, Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.